You look at the digital asset space today, and there is this just massive glaring paradox staring us right in the face.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
It's impossible to ignore once you see it.
Right, because think about the absolute titans of the industry. We're talking Bitcoin, XRP, Dogecoin. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in stored value just sitting there. But, well, technically speaking, they are kind of dumb.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're dumb networks.
It's like having a massive vault full of gold bars, but you aren't allowed to actually use those bars to, generate interest or collateralize a complex loan or do literally anything modern finance lets you do. The capital is just completely dormant.
Which is crazy when you think about the scale of wealth we're talking about.
Exactly. So we've been digging through a serious stack of sources to figure out how to solve this. We're talking official white papers, update announcements, and some incredibly detailed tokenomics breakdowns from Fiendus and Gatelearn. And all of them, they all point to one specific network attempting to crack this vault wide open.
And it's a massive undertaking. Because, those original assets, like Bitcoin or XRP, they're primarily single-purpose ledgers. They were intentionally designed to do one thing, which is track who owns what, and do it very securely.
Right. Keep the gold in the vault.
Exactly. But because of that, they completely lack the native smart contract capabilities needed to participate in modern decentralized finance, or, DeFi. You literally can't program them.
So they're just stuck.
Yeah. And the network we're looking at today, FLR, is taking a completely unorthodox approach to fixing that. Instead of just trying to be another generic smart contract platform, they are positioning themselves as the foundational blockchain for data.
Yeah. And if you've been following me, FLR Crypto, lately, they've been pivoting hard into this data narrative. The mission for this deep dive is to demystify how turning a blockchain into a data engine actually brings all that dead capital back to life.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is.
Yeah.
But to understand how FLR plans to drag an asset like XRP into DeFi, we first have to understand how a blockchain actually knows what an asset is worth in the first place, which on the surface, that sounds like a simple Google search.
It sounds so simple until you realize how blockchains are architected. It's actually one of the hardest problems in computer science. It's famously known as the Oracle problem.
The Oracle problem. Break that down for us.
Okay, so you have to think of a blockchain, a layer 1 based network, as a completely closed, windowless box. It only knows what is written on its own internal ledger.
So it's completely isolated from the outside world.
100% isolated. If a smart contract inside that box needs to know, say, the price of Bitcoin in US dollars to execute a trade, or even just something mundane like the current weather in London, it cannot look it up. It has to get that data fed to it from the outside world.
And most layer 1 networks, which are just the base operating systems like Ethereum or Solana, they treat that outside data as a third-party dependency, right?
Right. They rely on external middleware to fetch the data and push it inside the box.
Which introduces a massive central point of failure. You can spend billions building an incredibly secure, decentralized blockchain, but if you are relying on a separate, potentially less secure network, like Chainlink or another third-party oracle, to feed it the data, well, your security is only as strong as that external feed.
Exactly. If the oracle is manipulated, the smart contract executes a bad trade. It's garbage in, garbage out.
And FLR changes this architecture entirely.
They do. So FLR operates as an EVM-compatible network, which just means any developer who knows how to build on Ethereum can copy-paste their work over to FLR without having to learn a whole new coding language.
Which is huge for adoption.
Massive. But the key difference is that FLR uses a proof-of-stake system that actually enshrines data acquisition directly into the base layer consensus.
Okay, wait, I want to make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. So if we look at traditional oracles, it's kind of like a company hiring a team of external auditors to review their books. Those external auditors, they might be easily bribed, or maybe they just aren't paying close attention because they're a separate entity from the company itself.
That's a really good way to look at it.
But FLR's approach is more like telling the company's own board of directors, the actual validators running the network, that they have to do the auditing themselves.
Yes, but the mechanism actually goes even deeper than that. Not only are the network validators doing the auditing, but providing accurate data is a strict, hard-coded condition of them keeping their jobs and earning block rewards at all.
Oh, wow, so they have to do it.
They have to. The economic security of the incoming data is anchored to the exact same validators securing the blockchain itself. They achieve this using what they call the FLR time series oracle, or FTSO v2.
Okay, the sources mentioned this updates every 1.8 seconds. How do they actually get a massive network of computers to agree on global financial data that fast without the whole system just, grinding to a halt?
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
They embed the data submission into the block creation process itself. So every 1.8 seconds, a new block is produced on Flare, and with every single block, the FTSO updates.
That is incredibly fast.
It supports up to 1,000 different data feeds, too. We're talking equities, commodities, crypto. And it pulls this by utilizing around 100 independent data providers.
And what are those providers actually doing?
They're constantly querying external exchanges, calculating the median prices, and baking that consensus right into the blockchain state. It has to be that fast, especially for DeFi applications like lending or perpetual futures. Those protocols need to liquidate positions the second market volatility spikes or the whole system goes under.
That makes total sense. And alongside that, the sources highlight the Flare Data Connector, the FDC. This isn't just about price feeds, right? This is a native state verification engine.
Right, so the FDC handles complex events. It basically lets smart contracts on Flare securely verify that an event actually happened on a completely different blockchain, or even on a Web2 API.
Give me an example of how that would work in practice.
Sure. So a smart contract on Flare could use the FDC to verify that a specific transaction was finalized on the Bitcoin network. Or it could verify a piece of banking data through a traditional API, all without ever having to trust a centralized middleman to confirm it.
Okay, this is where the pieces really start falling into place. Flare has built this base layer that is just hyper-optimized for importing reliable data, both prices and events. And the primary application for all that enshrined data is safely importing those trillions of dollars of dumb assets we talked about at the beginning.
Exactly. This is where we get into the assets framework.
Right, assets.
It's the mechanism that takes assets like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and XRP and represents them on Flare as ERC-20 compliant tokens. ERC-20 just means they follow the standard token rules for Ethereum-style smart contracts.
So you get FBTC or FXRP.
Yep. And the crucial part of this architecture is that the original asset remains locked on its native chain, like the XRP ledger, while the wrapped version moves freely through Flare's DeFi ecosystem.
Okay, hold on. I have to push back here. Bridging is a dirty word in crypto right now.
It really is.
I mean, we just watched billions of dollars vanish in bridge hacks over the last 2 years. Usually these bridges use a multi-sig wallet, which is basically a joint bank account where maybe 3 out of 5 designated guys need to sign off to move the funds.
Right, the classic multi-sig setup.
Yeah, and if hackers compromise those keys, the original assets are drained and the wrapped tokens on the other side just become worthless overnight. So if I lock my XRP on the original ledger, who or what is actually holding it? Because if it's just a handful of guys acting as an agent, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
You're hitting on the core vulnerability of traditional bridging, and it's exactly why Flare engineered their agent system to be massively over-collateralized and completely decentralized.
Over-collateralized. How so?
Well, when a decentralized agent locks up your XRP on the native chain, that agent isn't just operating on trust. The protocol forces that agent to lock up their own collateral on the Flare network, usually a mix of stablecoins and Flare's native token, FLR. And we aren't talking about a one-to-one backing. The collateral ratio is typically 2.5 to 3 times the value of the asset being bridged.
Wait, 300% collateral. That is a massive safety net.
It completely neutralizes the economic incentive for an exploit. Let's trace the mechanics here. If that agent gets hacked on the native chain or fails to fulfill your redemption request when you want your XRP back, or just completely vanishes into thin air, the smart contract on Flare triggers automatically.
Without any human intervention.
Exactly. It takes the agent's massive pool of locked collateral and compensates you, the user. Because the collateral is worth 2 or 3 times more than the original XRP, the attacker gains nothing, the agent loses heavily, and you, the user, are actually made more than whole.
Okay, that changes the risk profile entirely. Which leads us to what users actually do with these assets once they have them. The Upshift announcement in our sources details something called Earn XRP. They're calling it the first fully on-chain XRP-denominated yield product.
Yeah, this is where the dormant capital wakes up.
Right, so you take your newly minted FXRP, you deposit it into a single vault, which is powered by Upshift and curated by a risk management firm called ClearStar. And then it just goes to work.
Yeah, instead of that capital sitting in a vault doing nothing, the Upshift vault deploys the FXRP across various DeFi strategies right on Flare.
Like what kind of strategies?
For instance, it might be used as collateral to borrow stablecoins on a protocol like Kinetic. Those stablecoins are then used for arbitrage, buying an asset at a lower price on one exchange and instantly selling it higher on another to capture a risk-free spread.
Okay, got it.
Or the vault might use your FXRP to provide concentrated liquidity on decentralized exchanges like SparkDex or Enosis, which earns trading fees.
The fascinating part about this vault, at least to me, is that all those profits are auto-compounded back into XRP. Because in a lot of DeFi yield farms, you get paid out in some random, highly inflationary reward token that crashes in value a week later.
Which nobody wants.
Right. But here, you just get more XRP. But here's the catch. This entire FAssets system, with its 300% collateral backing, is heavily reliant on the FLR token.
Very heavily.
If the price of FLR crashes, that 300% safety net evaporates, and you risk a cascading bank run. How does FLR prevent the underlying collateral from losing its value?
That right there is the structural vulnerability of any over-collateralized system. The underlying token must have serious, sustainable value. And historically, FLR had a real issue here.
Yeah, the early days were rough.
It was inflationary by design. Earlier tokenomics models heavily diluted the circulating supply to bootstrap the network and reward early participants.
Which is great for getting people in the door on day one, but it actively destroys the token's value over a multi-year time horizon.
Exactly the problem they faced. So to fix this, the community passed a governance proposal called FIP.16. This was a radical tokenomics overhaul that slashed network inflation from 5% down to 3% annually, which immediately choked off a huge source of sell pressure.
Okay, 5 to 3 is a big drop.
But cutting inflation wasn't enough. They had to ensure the network was actually generating real utility. That's where FIP.10 comes in, introducing the FAssets system.
I spent a lot of time reading the FIP.10 breakdown. It sounds absolutely ruthless for the infrastructure providers.
Oh, it is entirely ruthless by design. So we established earlier that validators are forced to provide data to the FTSO, right?
Right.
Under FIP.10, an infrastructure provider is given 3 passes per epoch. An epoch just being a set reward period, usually a few days. If a provider fails to meet the minimum accuracy and uptime requirements across all protocols, they lose a pass.
So they get 3 strikes.
Basically. And here is the kicker. It's not just about running the Oracle well. They have to actively and accurately participate in the Oracle, the data connector, and block production. If they run out of their 3 passes, they forfeit all their rewards for that entire epoch.
Wow. So you can't just be a lazy validator skimming rewards off one protocol anymore. You are either a professional-grade operator supporting the whole ecosystem, or you get zeroed out.
It forces incredibly high-quality participation, which secures the data, which in turn secures the FAssets. But all of this ties directly into the most aggressive tokenomic change in the sources, the FIRE flywheel.
Here.
Yes, FIRE stands for the FLR Income Reinvestment Entity.
The breakdown on FIRE is wild. From what I understand, this entity acts as a giant vacuum for network revenues. It captures the fees users pay to mint FAssets, the fees from the data connector, and even MEV.
Yeah, MEV is a big piece of this.
Right, and for those who aren't deep in the weeds, MEV, maximal extractable value, is basically the invisible profit that validators can make by reordering transactions in a block. Usually that value is just extracted from regular users and pocketed by validators. But FIRE captures it. It takes all these funds, buys FLR on the open market, and permanently burns it.
It's a brilliant mechanism. It transitions the network from a model that merely generates empty activity into a deflationary value accrual engine. Network growth directly compounds back into the token's scarcity.
Because they're taking tokens out of circulation.
Exactly. The more people bridge XRP, the more fees are generated. The more fees generated, the more FLR FIRE buys and burns. This reduces the total supply, which mathematically supports the token's value, which in turn makes that 300% collateral backing we talked about even more secure. It is a self-reinforcing loop.
Okay, but whenever I hear about an entity buying up tokens to reduce supply, my immediate thought is market manipulation. Does FIRE run the risk of acting like a centralized central bank, just artificially propping up the network to make the charts look good?
That's a fair concern, but the crucial distinction is where the money comes from. FIRE's mandate is strictly governed by the protocol and tied directly to organic network revenue.
So it's not just printing money.
No, it is not a central bank printing money out of thin air, and it's not a foundation using outside VC funds to artificially pump the token price. It is taking the actual realized economic output of the network, the hard fees users are paying for data and bridging, and routing that value back to the token holders via supply reduction. It only burns as much as the network organically earns.
Got it. So if we step back and look at the board, FLR has solved the data problem, by enshrining oracles into the validators themselves. They've solved the dumb asset problem by creating the over-collateralized FAssets framework. And they've stabilized the collateral by overhauling the tokenomics with FIP.16 and the Fire burn engine.
That covers the foundation. Yeah.
But the gate-learned sources point to a massive upcoming shift they're testing on Songbird.
Songbird, yes. Their canary network.
For those who don't know, a canary network is what exactly?
It operates as a live, fully functional testing ground with real economic value. It allows developers to test major upgrades under chaotic market conditions before pushing them to the FLR mainnet.
Like a beta test, but with real money.
Exactly. And what they are stress testing on Songbird right now is the FLR 2.0 upgrade. This introduces trusted execution environments, or TEEs, under a system called FLR Confidential Compute.
Okay, let's break down TEEs, because this is where the computer science gets pretty heavy. How does a trusted execution environment actually work in this context?
Think of a TEE as a highly secure, hardware-isolated lockbox built directly into a computer's processor.
A lockbox.
Right. It's similar to the secure enclave in your smartphone that holds your fingerprint or Face ID data. Even the phone's main operating system can't look inside it. A TEE can hold secrets privately, like cryptographic private keys, and it can mathematically prove to the outside world that it ran a specific piece of code correctly, all without ever revealing the data inside the lockbox.
That's incredible. But if validators are running these hardware lockboxes, how does that project FLR's power outward to other blockchains?
Because it enables a breakthrough called Protocol Managed Wallets, or PMWs. By utilizing these TEEs across the validator network, FLR smart contracts can securely hold the private keys to wallets on external blockchains.
Wait, really? External blockchains?
Yes. A smart contract on FLR can formulate a transaction, and the validators, using their hardware lockboxes, can directly sign and execute that transaction on the XRP ledger or the Bitcoin network without any human intermediary.
So up until now, FLR sounded like a highly advanced weather station. It had the FTSO and the data connector accurately reading the conditions on all these other chains and bringing that data home.
Right.
But with protocol managed wallets, FLR can actually reach across the internet and open an umbrella on that other chain. It's functioning as a universal remote control for blockchains that don't even have smart contracts.
The weather station to universal remote analogy captures the technical leap perfectly. And the crucial mechanism here is that it remains decentralized. To open that umbrella on the other chain, it requires 50% plus of FLR's validators to reach consensus and sign off on the transaction.
So a rogue validator can't just go rogue.
Exactly. You could theoretically write a smart contract on FLR that monitors the price of Bitcoin via the enshrined oracle, checks the state of an interest rate on Ethereum via the data connector, and based on that math, uses a protocol-managed wallet to automatically execute a massive trade on the XRP ledger, all trustless and all governed by FLR's consensus.
It completely redefines the limits of a layer 1 network.
Yeah.
I mean, we started this deep dive looking at a paradox. Hundreds of billions in dormant capital locked in vaults on single-purpose ledgers. And what we've unpacked is that FLR isn't trying to pull those assets out of the vault into some risky bridge.
No, not at all.
It is transformed into an enshrined data engine that turns that capital into yield-bearing DeFi powerhouses through systems like EarnXRP.
And it secures that entire ecosystem with the deflationary Fire flywheel, ensuring the collateral holds weight. FLR 2.0 shifts the entire industry paradigm from, how do we bridge these assets to a smart contract, to how do we bring the smart contract directly to the asset.
Which leaves you with one final, incredibly provocative thought to mull over. If FLR succeeds in making native assets like XRP and Bitcoin fully programmable without the traditional multi-sig risks, and with the ability to remotely execute commands on their home chains, will developers even bother building smart contracts anywhere else? Or will FLR eventually become the unseen universal engine room running the entire decentralized economy in the background, while the gold bars just stay safely locked in their original vaults? Something to think about. We'll see you on the next deep dive.